Okay, welcome to the second lab session for this week, week one of DGL. Ooh, thunder just rocked the Orlando area here. Okay, some more people strolled into the room as well, so that's a good sign. Thanks for showing up. I think this will be a useful session. It won't be terribly long, but it's useful because I'll mostly walk people through, maybe not every single step of the assignment that's due Sunday, but at least the major parts. Because I know that when you look at the assignment sheets, things can seem a bit confusing at first glance. So people who attend this session usually tend to do better because they get to see me walk through the major steps, while those who don't. Not that we're penalizing people, but some people could figure it out just fine with the assignment sheets, and that's great. But I hold these sessions to help people out who need a little bit of extra aid. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, this session will mostly focus on the 1.5 assignment, which is due Sunday night at midnight Eastern. It's called Exploring Digital Literacy, and we'll get to an explanation of what that is in just a second. Here's an overview of what we'll kind of cover. First of all, I'd just like to make some quick comments about the digital identity activity, which most of you have been jumping in and participating in. Then we'll go over the 1.5 assignment, and then I'll leave things open for some questions and answers. Yes, Josh, this is called personal instruction because, again, this is a perfect segue, right? We're going to talk about digital identity, which is connected to that Prensky article you had to read at the beginning of the week. Remember, that article makes a big point about how we have to reach students in different ways. It's not enough to just give them an assignment sheet and say, go at it. After all, in a traditional classroom, you'll always have face-to-face interaction with the instructor. But because this is a completely online course, it's not quite really fair to say, oh, here's the assignment sheet, here's all the activities, go at it. Because then, I don't know, students can feel left out in the cold. As instructors, we don't really feel like we're teaching, we're just sort of managing the course, and that's not fun. So yeah, these go-to sessions sort of find that middle ground where at least for twice per week we can sort of meet at a class just as you would at a traditional university. Sure, at a university you might meet 3 times a week for an hour, but the courses here move much faster. They're only a month long, so meeting twice a week for an hour or so seems pretty useful and appropriate. Okay, so most of you have I jumped into the discussion board today. I apologize for not jumping in sooner. People were supposed to have posted their digital identity project by Wednesday midnight last night. If you didn't post yet, by the way, if you can go ahead into the chat board, how many people here have posted something? I recognize some of your names. Like I know Shane has posted. I'd say, I don't know, it looks like about a dozen people posted. Yeah, Chanda, I think I remember seeing yours. So I kind of jumped in today and started making some comments and responding, and I'll keep doing so throughout the next couple days just to encourage discussion and keep things moving. But I was happy with what I saw for the most part. But you had to remember, you had to come up with your own sort of unique term for your own digital identity and define it a little bit, and it was accompanied by a creative project. But I sort of want to just ask real quickly a basic question, which is related to the reading that I didn't ask in the last session. And that is, if we stick to Prensky's terms, okay, he uses digital native to describe those people who have just always been born around this stuff. And by stuff, I mean, anything from computers to cell phones to smartphones to social media. And then there are digital immigrants, right? Those people who didn't grow up with this stuff but are learning it now. How many of you feel like you're at one side or the other? And how many of you feel like you're somewhere in between? Again, you can use the chat box or you can raise your hand and speak out loud. But are you on one side or the other, or do you feel like you're somewhere in between? Okay, Josh says he feels somewhere in between. Why do you say you feel like you're somewhere in between, Joshua? And same thing for Karen. Karen says she's an immigrant, so it might be interesting to hear from her. Like, why do you consider yourself an immigrant? Did you not grow up with technology? Are you literally, and I mean this in the kindest sense possible, are you literally like immigrants is no longer a PC term, so I'm trying to think of what is the right term that we use now. Are you someone who didn't grow up in this country, and is that why, or is it just because you never grew up around the stuff? Okay, you say just because you're adapting. O'Shane breaks it down into percentage: 70% native, 30% immigrant. Josh says he feels like he's in between because although tech has always been available, it always hasn't been a big part of my life. However, he's proficient. Okay, so most people sounds like they're somewhere in the middle. And even O'Shane's percentage kind of shows that I don't know if there's such a thing as, well, Quest does say he's 100% native. Probably nobody's 100% native. You're probably 99% because there's always something new that comes along that you have to learn, right? But I guess in this sense, native means more like you've always been surrounded by this stuff, and even if new things come around, you can adapt pretty quickly. Okay, Karen gives some more information. Low budget kids. Yeah. That's all completely understandable. I'm not quite in that situation, but I can remember making choices. Like, I just recently joined the smartphone generation, by the way, just like 3 weeks ago. I finally got rid of my dumb phone and upgraded to a smartphone. I think I was the last person in North America not to have a smartphone. And there were a couple reasons why I resisted, but a big one is I just couldn't justify the cost. I mean, I guess I could have technically afforded it, but I didn't see the point in spending money on something that, I have a MacBook Pro, I have a tablet, I have plenty of ways to get online. I'm not someone who needs to go out to dinner and take pictures of my food and immediately post it to Instagram. Or if I do, I can just take a picture another way and wait till I get home to upload it. So I never quite understood why the pressure to get a smartphone. By the way, this is too much information. But I eventually made the switch only because I found such a cheap deal that it made no sense to hang on to the dumb phone. And the smartphone now is acting just like my dumb phone did. It sits around on the coffee table doing nothing. I often forget to bring it with me when I go places because I'm not used to bringing a phone with me because I could care less. So it really, my life hasn't changed very much. By the way, I have no idea why I got off on that tangent. Oh yeah, I was responding to Karen's comments about reasons why you could be a digital immigrant. There are cost concerns, certainly. Some people are literally coming here from somewhere else where maybe technology wasn't as available as it is here in the United States. Some people just don't have much of an interest. We usually stereotype older people as being this way. Jaquan says I control everything in his. He says he controls everything in his house with his smartphone. Have you seen that? I think it's a funny commercial. Have you seen that commercial where the three people are staring at this guy like he's an idiot because he's using this the smartphone to operate his grill? Have you seen that? I like that commercial. I don't know if people have seen that commercial. There's some guy who's setting up his grill, and the grill's a social grill, so he can take a selfie with it, and he can start the grill with an app. I like that. Commercial. Okay, wow, we're getting way off topic here. I'm sorry for that. I'm missing all the stuff that's going on in the chat. Most of it is off topic. Yeah, I haven't played Watch Dogs yet. Hopefully, I will. Did I miss anything else important? Okay, but it seems like most people are sort of somewhere in between. Quest says he's 100% digital. I said in my own presentation on Tuesday that I'm somewhere in between. I consider myself a digital adapter. I'm no technophobe, clearly, because I'm speaking to you all now through technology. I'm teaching digital literacy, so it would be a really poor choice to have an instructor who has no idea of, who is not familiar with technology at all to teach this course. But yeah, I consider myself somewhere in between, mostly due to age reasons. I like technology, but sometimes I'm a little bit slow to get on board with things just because I don't see the immediate need for something because I haven't grown up with it, but some of you have. Okay, but this is just a reminder, too, to just keep up with that discussion board. Remember, if you've posted your project, that's great, but you have to respond to at least 2 of your classmates before Sunday. That's like the minimum, so you can go beyond 2, and hopefully you should be responding somewhat in-depth. It doesn't mean you have to write a ton, but you should be honestly engaging with 2 of your classmates, not just writing 2 words like nice job or looks great, okay, because those aren't truly responses. That's just you writing words to sort of hit your assignment goals. Okay, so let's talk about the assignment for this Sunday. So it's a little bit odd because you kind of technically have 2 assignments that are due, though I guess if you've already posted your project to the your digital identity project to the discussion board and made at least 2 honest and somewhat engaging comments, you've fulfilled that assignment. If you haven't, you need to complete that by Sunday, but be careful because there's another assignment that's due Sunday as well, and it will take some time. It's not terribly difficult, but it will take time. Okay, so you have to use this thing called Dingo. I mean Digo. Okay, Digo is a website that allows people to tag, organize, highlight, and bookmark material found online. By the way, a dingo is actually a wild dog that lives in Australia, so don't get confused, okay? Dingo, Digo, 2 separate things. Um, and the kind of cool thing about Digo is that it's a bookmarking tool that does more than bookmarking, because obviously, and let me switch away from the PowerPoint presentation for a second, obviously when you go online you have standard bookmarking tools, right? We can always go to things, go up to the bookmark thing and click add bookmark. But Digo does more than that, which I'm going to show you in just a second. By the way, how many of you have already created your Digo account? It was an activity that was assigned to you early in the week. You don't get a grade for it, so it's not like I'm taking off points if you didn't do it, but most of you should have done it. If not, it's not a big deal. It takes 2 seconds to do. Here's the assignment for the 1.5 activity, and I have to say that, I think I explained last time that I'm officially a member of the English department. I teach digital literacy, I don't know, maybe 4 to 5 months out of the year, because there's just a natural, or there's a somewhat natural connection between English and digital literacy. They both have that word literacy, for instance. But I don't create the materials for DGL. And I say that not as an excuse, but just to say that I know that, actually, the assignment sheets, I think they're as well written as they could possibly be. They're as concise and focused as they could possibly be. But that doesn't mean that if you just rely on the assignment sheets that things can't be confusing. For instance, if you just read through the instructions, it seems like it's asking for a lot. Log into your account. In your My Library under Digo, create a list or name called DGL Vocabulary. Then find sources, add them to your list using the Digo toolbar. Highlight the information, add tags. Then in your list, add section headers for each of the terms to organize things. Right, so it seems like it's throwing a lot of different things at you. And they're not terribly difficult things at all, and I'm going to try to walk you through the steps in just a second using an example. But if you just rely on the assignment sheet, yeah, it can seem like, wow, I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to do that. I'm not sure what it's asking. As an instructor, I kind of understand that. Excuse me, let me take a sip of water. So for the first couple assignments, I'll always sort of kind of walk people through things, because I know that just using words alone, it can be confusing. Okay, so this is the instruction sheet. You have this second document. By the way, these are all downloadable for you. They're kind of assets that are on your activity page. So if you open up this other document, you get the digital literacy terms. Okay, and there are a bunch of them. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it looks like there are 20 of them. Okay, everything from digital literacy to copyright, malware, netiquette. And your job with this assignment is basically pretty simple. Your job is to go online and define each of these terms, but you're going to do so using Digo. But if you keep in mind that your job is to go through each of these terms, and it's every single one of them, okay? That's why I said it's a little bit of a time-consuming assignment, because every so often I get that student who doesn't understand things entirely and just thinks they have to pick one of these words off the list, and that's all they hand in, and then it's really depressing when I have to get back to that student. So you're defining all 20 of these terms, and you're going to go online to figure out what those definitions are, but you're going to use Digo to bookmark and categorize them, right? To sort of have them in one place you could turn to them when you want. So obviously you have to go to Digo. I'll skip the setup, mostly because it looks like a lot of you have already set up your Digo accounts. Also, I've already set up mine, so I can't really walk you through that, but all of you know how to sign up for something. So when you sign up, you get something like this. It pretty much tells you that, oh, you've got nothing yet, right? It encourages you to start adding material. And it's simply a matter of dragging. It tells you drag this button, the Digo Lab. It's your bookmarks toolbar. So you just take it and drag it up to your toolbar. I've already added it to mine, so I'm not really going to add it. I'm using a MacBook Pro, but I'm sure it's the same for PC. Maybe people can confirm that to me. Does it work exactly the same way on PC, people? I have no idea, Josh. That's okay. Well, try it out. Um, but once you get your little DGL, like mine is up here, it's already added to the toolbar. Then we can start our work. So, for example, most people sort of just go through the list one by one. I'm just going to randomly pick a term. So let's look at wikis, okay? Let's say I've already done these first 7 and I'm down to wikis. So, okay, we can do our standard internet search, right? I can go online and Google or do whatever and enter wikis. Now, here's the thing. You're supposed to be looking for sources that can give you rich information about the term you're looking up. The goal here is not to run to Wikipedia or online dictionaries, because that's not really... I mean, it's partly useful. You will get a definition, but the goal here is to sort of truly understand the term that you're looking at. Next week, we'll get into issues of misinformation, what's accurate online and what's not, and we'll talk more about, for example, Wikipedia. And Wikipedia is fantastic sometimes, but sometimes it's not. Also, in your future classes, you'll be in courses where you will explicitly be told not to use Wikipedia. So why not get in the habit now of avoiding those things? So the goal isn't like, look, the very first thing that pops up, Wikipedia. So that's not my goal, is to go here. My goal is to find something that's really kind of useful and can tell me something about what wiki means. For some reason, oh no, there it is. So, okay, here's one of how stuff works. Now, if I open up my DGL, which will... There we go. Okay. We have lots of different functions. You basically have to do at least 3 things here. First, you have to highlight whatever is useful or interesting in whatever reading you found. So if I scan through this, blah, 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 chances are you've heard of wikis, blah, blah, blah. And then I get down to a wiki allows a group of people to enter and community edit bits of text. These bits of text can be viewed and edited by anyone who visits the wiki. Okay, well that sounds good, because that sounds like something that's defining the term. If I click on the highlighter, just click it once, I can just highlight what I like, and boom. And that's what's really useful about things like DGL, is that you can obviously bookmark anything you find online, but DGL allows you to highlight. It allows you to add sticky notes, like this is really interesting, right? And I have a note attached. And this way, maybe not so much for this class, although for some of the later assignments, you probably will find this useful, but in your future classes as well. If you've ever been in that situation where you need to do research and you've bookmarked something and then you go back to it, but it's been several days or maybe a week and you can't quite remember what it was in the article that you thought was interesting or would like to quote or would like to cite, well, the DGL allows you to add notes, highlight, etc., so you don't have to read the entire thing again. Okay, so I've highlighted the one thing I found interesting. If I read through all of it, maybe there's something else I want to highlight. And then I click on bookmark. By clicking bookmark, it opens up this window here. To be safe, you should uncheck private, just because when you send me your URL for your DGO list, I should be able to access it. And then you have to also add some tags. Okay, you can just choose from the recommended tags if you want, or you can create your own tags. I'll say definition, technology, DGL, right? Because the course is called DGL. And then if I click on Save Bookmark, boom, it's added to my DGL library. Now you don't need to literally, I have the My Library tab open already, but if I didn't, you could always just go to the little DGL icon and get there that way by clicking on My Library, which I'll do. And I'll close the other tab. And you can see there's my stuff, right? There's the actual site that I found. There's my note. There's my highlight. Now, the next step is that we have to organize this list, because eventually you're going to have, there are 20 terms to define, and you need to find. By the way, you need to find at least 2 sources per vocabulary word. Okay, you can have more. More is encouraged, but you're going to have at least 2. So my using how stuff works is just one of the 2 I need to find for to help me define what wikis mean. But eventually the list is going to get pretty large. Like, let me just real quickly, I'll do this in like 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Let me pick another thing. Copyright. Okay, so let me real quickly. Copyright. And let's say, I don't know, let's say I like something in here. And let's say, by the way, you should never go through it this quickly. I'm just doing this as an example. And let's say I like this line here. Oops, I screwed that up. I don't want to highlight all that. Oh, this is another important hint too. I'm using Safari, which is the Mac browser. Digo does not like Safari. Digo likes Firefox, so I should have started with Firefox. But I'm going to force this to work. Okay, so let's say I like this. Okay, let's try something else. Let's pretend this is a useful site, even though it looks pretty questionable. Although maybe there's some interesting stuff. I'm gonna try this one more time to see if my. Sometimes the highlighter gets stuck in Safari. It doesn't work. Like there it exists, here it disappears. You know what? Okay, forget it. We're gonna pretend I highlighted something, and we're gonna add this to our bookmark. Ah, now nothing's working. Oh, this is like the worst session ever. I'm trying to think. It's going to take too long to go to Firefox. Okay, let's hope this works. Oh, okay, we're back in Digo, my library. Just imagine that I have like 20 different items here that I've added to my thing. That's not enough, because when I go to look at your Digo list, I don't want to see 40 unorganized random items in your list. So how do we organize your list? First of all, to our left, under my list, we just click on the Add List button. And we'll create a specific list called DGL Vocabulary. Okay? Now that that list is created, I can put anything into this list. So if I go to my How Stuff Works bookmark, I can add it to that list. See? Let me do that again. How Stuff Works was before just a bookmark site that had no categorization. But if I click the box to the left and add to list, DGL Vocabulary, boom, it's now in my DGL Vocabulary list. Right? So if I click on DGL Vocabulary, there it is. Now, okay, so we've started adding things to our library under Digo. We've moved stuff so that it's appearing in a dedicated list called DGL Vocabulary. There's one other thing we need to do, which is to create sections or headings so that we divide the different categories. Okay, you're basically going to be dividing them by word. And to do that, we just click up here. You have to be in the DGL Vocabulary list, by the way. And we click up here to add section. And we're just going to call this the name of the term we're defining, wikis. And here in the description box, you're going to enter in your own definition, okay? So I'm just going to write definition of wikis goes here, okay? This is where you're going to put your definition. Not a definition you took from online, not a definition that you copied and pasted from an online dictionary, but you know, your sense of, after having read 2 or 3 different sources to find out what a term means. This is where, when you create your section, your heading, this is the box where you're going to enter in your definition in your own words, okay? And you're going to put it here. And then if we click Add Section, boom, we have a section. Now what I wanted to show is that if we have lots of different items, we can move this section heading around by just dragging it, right? So if I had lots of terms and I said, uh-oh, this heading, wikis, along with my definition, it needs to go up with the actual stuff that I found related to wikis. All I have to do is drag it up there. And ultimately what you'll have then are 20 headings with at least 2 sources listed underneath each one. Alright, so 20 headings for your 20 different terms. And underneath each heading is going to be your own definition in your own words. That way, when I go to your list, I'm not confused. I don't just see a morass of stuff that you've bookmarked, and I can't make heads or tails of it. Or I could, but it's going to take me a lot of effort. And it's not that I'm lazy, but I shouldn't have to make that sort of effort, because you could always just click on the Add Section function and create your own headings, move those headings around, so that the list is actually sort of divided into chapters, right? So you should have headings called, digital literacy, citizenship, identity, and so on. And notice that some of these terms are pretty vague, or not vague, but they're open to meaning, like databases. What does that mean? It can mean one thing or another depending on how specifically you're going to define it in terms of, like, the world of 2014. Same thing for copyright. Some of this is absolutely digital terminology, but other things like academic integrity. Academic integrity has always existed, but how will you define it? Which sources will you choose that best capture what you think academic integrity means? So your goal here is to go through each of these 20 words and find 2 or 3 sources for each term that helps you best understand each of these words, and then organize it in a list within DGO. How much of that made sense? Are there any questions or any, Joshua, which part confused you? You said you got all of it except one part. It seems, I mean, it is easy, don't get me wrong, it's incredibly easy. But I'm telling you, some of you will start this assignment, and what seems incredibly clear now won't seem so clear when you enter DGO. You'll be clicking around going, wait, what was that thing he said? Or how do I create? Like Josh saying, I missed the part where you made the header. The header is just this thing here called Add Section. You have to be in your My Lists area. Specifically, you should be in the list that you created, so in this case, DGL Vocabulary. And if you go up top and just click Add Section, that's where you can enter, like, let's say we were looking up copyright. So we'll call it copyright. And then your definition of copyright goes in here. And we save it, Add Section. And then we can drag this down, because right now it's not in the right spot. So now all the stuff related to wikis goes underneath wikis, and all the stuff underneath copyright will go underneath copyright. Okay? Yeah, Jaquan, it is easy. It really is a sort of easy tool. If I had to make one tiny complaint about DGO, it's just that it's awesome, but for some reason, and I can't even explain how they could improve upon it, but I don't think it's as intuitive when you're in this menu, when you're in this dashboard, as it could be. It's just, I don't know. Like, I've done it enough times that it's intuitive to me, but I know it's a little bit awkward. For example, I don't understand why, like, when I go to my library, like, I get just a whole generic list of things. But when I go to my list and my DGL vocabulary, then I get, specific things categorized. And maybe there's a way and I just don't realize it, but I would like to literally move this stuff out of here into a specific list, so it's not appearing here as well. I think that's a little bit confusing. Yeah, Chanda, good point. No, it's not a matter of giving you more work. This is required in the assignment. Chanda's right. That's only part one. I mean, the biggest part of it, I think, is going to be the stuff I just went over. It's going to take you time to go through all 20 of those words, look up reputable sites, bookmark them, organize them, come up with your own definitions, etc. But there is another part, which is detailed here in the assignment sheet. In a separate document, you'll create a set of individual statements or paragraph where you use at least 5 of those vocabulary words in context to show you that you understand these terms. Okay, and it gives you more advice, It's best to relate these statements to your industry if you want to. You can be playful. You can just create 5 sentences, or you can create a poem or a short story or a set of lyrics. So you can be creative. But the important thing here is you have to use the words in context, because the biggest issue I see is that and by the way, maybe I don't have an example, but I mean, most students do something. Come on. Okay. Yeah, I mean, there are other rules here too about how you need to upload the file. It should be in a zip file containing a document with your name, student number. But I mean, that's what most students do. So, for example, they'll do something like, they'll put their name, student number, 999999. Then they'll put in their DGO URL. So just go to your DGO site, go to your DGL vocabulary list, right? Grab the URL, make it clear somehow. And then they'll just produce their 5 statements. But the thing here is to not just use the statements generically, because every so often I see a student who does this, like digital literacy is super important, or everyone should learn the importance of copyright. But what's the problem with those sorts of statements? I mean, I know it's a stupid question because it's pretty obvious. But like number 2, everyone should learn the importance of copyright. Yeah, right, Jaquan. It's too simple. It's not showing me at any level that they understand what the word copyright means. It assumes that the reader already knows what copyright means. In this case, it's true. I do know what copyright means, but I want to see that you know what it means, which means using it in context. Okay, so it's not just slapping down 5 sentences, but it's using the words in a way that demonstrate understanding or meaning. But it really is a simple. Okay. So yeah, as Chanda reminds us, you'll have 5 sentences where you use 5 of the vocabulary words. You can use more if you want, but there should be at least 5, and you demonstrate you can use them in context. I need a URL to your DGL library, and when I get there, I'll be checking for things. And always, I mean, read through the assignment sheet carefully, because again, even though I walk you through the things, the assignment sheet has other tiny details and nuances that you don't want to skip over. The rubric is another important thing. For example, here's a rubric for this assignment, right? So here's what I'll be checking for. In order to do exceptionally well in this assignment, I need to see that the DGO account was properly created, right? That it has a named list, so GGL vocabulary, that you use tags, that they were organized with the links underneath with a definition corresponding to that heading. Okay, so these are things that I'm looking for. Same thing with the next category. Were 2 or more sources bookmarked for each item? Yes, more than 2 sources were bookmarked. Wikipedia online dictionaries were not used. Right, and also reminds you that 2 sources were bookmarked with focused highlights. Was a definition created for each term? Yes, a definition was created for each term, and it was contained within the section header. So I just showed you how to do that, and so on. Right? Did you submit 5 statements that show understanding the words in context? There's some grading for grammar and mechanics. So this is a month 1 course, so I'm not super picky about grammar and mechanics, even though I'm an English teacher. But I will notice the major things, like speaking in text speak. Not capitalizing the initial letter of a word that begins a sentence, right? Not using end punctuation, obvious spelling issues. So we're not completely giving up. Yeah, like Joshua just demonstrated in the chat with his "what you mean." There has to be some attention given to writing clearly. And lastly, is everything included? Right? Did you upload the file correctly? Do you include your student name and number? And if you're doing all of those things with a pretty strong effort, you should do well in the assignment. Points get taken off when you start missing things. When no specific DGL list is created within the library of DGO, when things aren't highlighted, when no sections are created, when no definitions are added to those section headings, things like that. So, like I said, it seems like it's asking for a lot, this assignment, and it seems like it's asking you to juggle several balls in the air at once, and it kind of is. But I don't think any of the steps are terribly difficult, but there is a lot to keep track of. And I think people who sort of keep track of it tend to do well, and others don't. And pretty much the future assignments, I think in some ways they get a little bit easier, but they all sort of are similar to this one, and that they'll often be asking you to do lots of several different things at once, mostly because we want you to get this sort of crash course into digital tools and feeling comfortable with them and being able to navigate and being able to do these things on the fly. But that's also why I walk you through the steps, so that you're not completely lost, because that would be unfair as well. I mean, there's sink and swim, and then there's tying weights to someone's ankles and throwing them in the ocean and telling them to swim. And that's kind of what it would be like if I just said, okay, go out there and have fun with your DGO list, and you better do it right or I'm going to take off points. I mean, I go through this in the session to make sure that people more or less understand things. I think that covers the basis of most of this stuff. Before we get to questions and answers, I do just want to give, I'm not going to get into it deeply, but just a preview. I don't even know why I'm going back to this ugly dog, because we're pretty much done with that presentation, but just a real quick preview. Next week there's going to be some teamwork things involved, where those of you who are in the class are going to be divided into 3 different teams, Team A, Team B, and Team C, and you're actually going to have a group project, which might seem sort of awkward because you don't know each other, and most of you are online in different parts of the country, but that's also the fun of this in digital literacy, is to prove that people can work together even if they're an entire country apart. We'll get into the details of what that team activity is, but you will have to work with others. So keep your eye out for that, because I think it comes out Sunday night. I have an announcement set up that will, you'll know which team you're in. Okay, that's what I wanted to say. Mostly, though, you have to focus on this DGO activity for Sunday, but keep your eye out for probably more like Monday morning to identify what team you're in. And on Tuesday's go-to session, I'll talk a little bit about that assignment and give some tips about that. Your team names, O'Shane, are Team A, B, and C. If you want to call it, I don't know, Team Edward and Team Jacob, that's up to you. But we just call it Team A, Team B, and Team C. So, yeah. I've read the Twilight books and seen the movies. It always gets labeled as a women's book, but I've read them. I've read all of them. So yeah, I'll use that reference. But don't get too caught up about that. That's next week. But just so you get a hint at what's coming. Okay, my DGO. Oh, real quickly. I mean, so here's your checklist, right? If this is interesting to you, you can take a snapshot of it, or you can, I don't know, write it down, or burn it into the carpet if you have a torch handy. But this is like a checklist. These are things you have to make sure that you're doing for the assignments due Sunday. So did you create a properly labeled DGL vocabulary list within your library? Did you create headings that separate each of your terms within the DGL list? Did your heading... Oh boy, I should get points taken off for that. Come on. Did your heading boxes include your own definition for terms? Did you create a separate document that contains at least 5 sentences where you use 5 DGL vocabulary words in context? Does your assignment include your name and student ID? Okay, so pretty basic stuff, but if you need a refresher, these are like the key things you need to hit. I left out some stuff, like you should be highlighting stuff within your bookmarked pages and stuff like that, but these are like the biggies. Yeah, Shane, I should get points taken off. 3 points. It always happens to me, every single time. I think that I've proofread this thing, and then I go online, and there's always some stupid error. Okay, this is a Q&A part of the session. This week, I mean, the lab sessions are purposely kept short. Tuesday is a welcome thing. Today is mostly about the first assignment and walking you through that. So we're pretty much done. But does anybody have questions about the digital identity thing that you're still working on? Some of you, which is due Sunday. This exploring digital literacy assignment using Digo that's also due Sunday. How to upload the document just in case. I can tell. Yeah, I can. I can't show you, but I can explain it in general terms. Did I lose? You have the basic instructions in the assignment sheet that you upload one compressed file. And compressed file is just a fancy way of saying, like, let me go to my desktop. Oh, I got 10 million things open here. No wonder my machine is running so slow. Let's close that. Let's close that. Let's close that. Let's close iTunes. Okay, so okay, here's a document, right? Let's say I need to zip this document. I don't know how. By the way, I've been a PC owner for a long time, but it's been a while since I've been using Mac. But like on a Mac, I just right-click and I just click compress, and it automatically makes it into a zip file. And then this zip file is what I'll upload to the FSO platform. I'm not sure how things look on your end because I only have the instructor view. But on your end, you must see something like, I don't know. It might say, what does it say on your end? Someone help me. I mean, it's got to be as simple as anything else, right? There's got to be something where you either drag the file in or upload it like any other file. But in terms of zipping, that's all you need to do. Quest actually asks something interesting. If you already uploaded and you want to make revisions, can you re-upload? Yes, up until the due date, that is. After that, I don't think it will. But yeah, I just know. By the way, I know this only because I've seen students hand in, like they'll say, "Oh, I made a mistake. This is the most recent proofread copy," and they upload something else. So I end up seeing two uploads, and I just have to look closely and make sure I'm downloading the most recent one. But yeah, you can upload things more than once. That's a cool thing here, because in the past, as soon as you uploaded something to the FSO platform, because we used to have an older system that got replaced just a couple months ago, that was it. I mean, listen, if we're not mean people, so if you sent us an email and explained the situation, but you had to send us like your newer version via email, and now you can just re-upload again. So yeah, that's a cool function. Any other questions? Silence. I'm going to take that as a good sign, not a bad sign. Everything's clear. We feel pretty comfortable with Digo and what we need to do. Yeah, as Karen says, if you do have questions, just let me know. Okay, this will be recorded, and that's for your benefit. I don't mind answering questions, but if it's a question that was covered in the session, it's probably best just to watch the recording because you can skip around, right? It's on YouTube, so if you remember that it's probably halfway through the session, just click ahead and then remind yourself of, oh, that's how I create the section heading or whatever. But it will be recorded for later viewing. Do I read a lot? I don't know why you ask that. If you mean in terms of like student work, yes, there's a lot to read. But it's fun. I like this class, and the assignments are different. They're not like reading essays, so it's a different kind of reading. It's reading your responses and your definitions, but it's also reading to make sure that you're hitting your marks in terms of like what you need to do for each assignment. So that's different. Yeah, Joshua, I'll never mention Twilight series again. I'll just mention the Vampire Diaries instead. I can't wait for that show to start in the fall. That's Team Stefan and Team what's the other guy's name? I forget. There are two vampires in that. It's real similar to Twilight. That's why I'm joking about it. Stefan and who's the other guy? I remember the actor's name, Ian Somerhalder, but what's his name on the show? By the way, I'm going to stop the recording because people are going to go nuts with the people who aren't here live. They're going to wonder why I'm talking about this stuff. So stop embarrassing myself further. I'm going to stop the recording now.